Most cities are known for what people drink. New York is known for deciding how drinks are supposed to be made. Think about that for a second. Not invented here, defined here. The proportions locked in, the names turned into categories, the techniques written down and exported until they stopped feeling like New York's rules and started feeling like the only rules. This isn't a story about drinks, it's a story about standards. A cocktail so simple it became the template. One that turned a borough into a category, and one that spread so far most people don't realize where it started. A city that didn't just serve drinks, it decided what correct tasted like. That's the part people miss. I'm Evan. Let's get into it. Number 10. The egg cream. The egg cream contains no egg and no cream. That's the first thing New York needs you to know. Milk, seltzer, chocolate syrup. The technique matters more than the ingredients. Syrup first, milk at an angle, seltzer blasted in hard enough to build a foam head. Get the proportions wrong and it's just a chocolate soda. It never left New York. No chain, no franchise, no national expansion. Just Brooklyn diners and old-school soda fountains still making it because their regulars never stopped asking. Everything after this on the list spread, traveled, became rules. The egg cream is what New York kept for itself. Number 9. The Ricky. The Ricky started in Washington, D.C. New York standardized it. The original bourbon lime soda arrived in New York's bar culture in the 1880s and immediately got modified. Gin replaced bourbon. The ratio got fixed. The outcome became reliable. What New York did to the Ricky is what it does to everything. Took a loose idea and made it consistent. Before consistent bar culture, ordering a drink was a gamble. The same name produced different results depending on where you were. New York's bar scene, dense, competitive, serving regulars who knew what they wanted, created pressure toward consistency that didn't exist in smaller markets. The Ricky is the early version of that pressure. A drink that got standardized because New York's drinkers demanded it taste the same every time. Number 8. The highball. The highball is the most influential drink template in history. Most people have never thought of it as a template. Spirit, ice, mixer, glass, that's the whole formula. And it's running inside every 2-ingredient drink you've ever ordered. Whiskey soda, gin and tonic, vodka soda, rum and Coke. All of them highballs. All of them the same template with the label changed. New York didn't invent the combination, it named the format. And naming the format was the whole move. Because once it had a name, it could be taught, ordered, and replicated. Before New York named it, it was improvisation. After, it was a category. That's a bigger difference than it sounds. Number 7. The martini. The martini's origin is contested. Where it got defined isn't. New York's hotel bar culture, the Knickerbocker, the Waldorf, the Plaza, treated the martini as the drink that separated serious drinkers from casual ones. Gin to vermouth ratio was an opinion people held and defended. Shaken versus stirred wasn't a preference, it was a position. The martini became the drink that taught people drinks could have correct versions. Before it became a New York institution, cocktails were approximate. After, they were precise. You didn't just order a martini, you specified how you wanted it made because the how mattered. Every cocktail that requires specific preparation, every drink where technique is part of the order, is working in the martini's shadow. Number 6. The Manhattan. The Manhattan is where a drink became a category. Rye whiskey, sweet vermouth, Angostura bitters, stirred, served up with a cherry. The recipe is specific enough that deviating from it produces something that needs a different name. That specificity is the contribution. The Manhattan gave New York a model for how to name and define a drink. The name carried geography. It implied a standard. It told you what you were ordering before you tasted it. Every subsequent cocktail named after a New York borough followed the same logic, that a place name could become a flavor expectation. The name doesn't just identify the drink, it guarantees it. Number 5. The Brooklyn. The Brooklyn cocktail exists to prove the Manhattan's point. Rye whiskey, dry vermouth, maraschino liqueur, Amer Picon. Created in the early 1900s, lost for decades when Amer Picon became unavailable in the US, revived by the craft cocktail movement when bartenders started hunting down substitutes. The Brooklyn's disappearance and return tells you how New York drinks work. A cocktail named after a borough carries an obligation. People expect it to exist, to be orderable, to taste like something specific. When it can't be made correctly, bartenders feel the absence. The revival wasn't nostalgia, it was completion. New York had created a system, borough as cocktail category, and the system felt incomplete with a gap in it. The Brooklyn came back because the logic that created it demanded it. Number 4. The Cosmopolitan. The Cosmopolitan didn't originate in New York. It was developed across multiple cities in the 1980s before Dale DeGroff at the Rainbow Room refined the recipe in the early 1990s and put it on a high-profile menu. That refinement was everything: vodka, triple sec, cranberry juice, lime juice. DeGroff used fresh lime and Cointreau instead of cheaper alternatives, a small adjustment that produced a noticeably better drink. The Rainbow Room served it to people in media, fashion, and entertainment. Those people talked about it. Then Sex and the City put it on television every week. In the hands of characters half of America wanted to be, the Cosmopolitan became the most ordered cocktail in the country through most of the 1990s, not because it was invented here, but because New York refined it, placed it in front of the right people, and let its media infrastructure do the rest. New York didn't just make the drink better, it made it famous in the specific way only New York can. Number 3. Hotel bar culture. The Waldorf Astoria opened in 1893. The bar it housed became one of the most influential drinking establishments in American history, not because of specific cocktails, but because of the standards it enforced. Professional bartenders, measured pours, consistent recipes, written menus. The expectation that a drink ordered tonight would taste identical to the same drink ordered next Tuesday. That consistency sounds obvious now. In the 1890s, it was revolutionary. New York's grand hotel bars, the Waldorf, the Knickerbocker, the Plaza, the St. Regis, created the model for what a professional bar could be, not a saloon. A controlled environment where technique was standardized and quality was enforced. Every hotel bar in the world running those principles is running a model New York built. The drinks changed, the standard didn't. Number 2, the cocktail code. At some point in New York's bar history, practice became doctrine, measurements, ratios, the difference between stirred and shaken, the correct glass for each category, the role of ice, not just cooling but dilution, which changes the drink, the distinction between a decorative garnish and a functional one. None of this existed as codified knowledge before New York's professional bar culture wrote it down, taught it, and spread it through bartenders moving through the city's hotel and restaurant system. The cocktail code isn't a single document. It's the accumulated standard that emerged from decades of New York bars competing, and in competing, establishing what best meant. When a bartender anywhere in the world measures a pour, that's the code. When they argue about Manhattan ratios, that's the code. When they explain why you stir spirit-forward drinks and shake citrus ones, that's the code. New York didn't invent the ingredients, it wrote the rules for combining them. Number 1, what New York actually built. The pattern isn't creativity or flavor, it's a language. The highball that became a category, the martini that made precision mandatory, the Manhattan that turned a place name into a flavor expectation, the hotel bars that made consistency a standard, the code that spread to every professional bar in the world. New Orleans built permission, Houston built collision, Atlanta built replication, New York built grammar. Order a Manhattan in Tokyo, in London, in Dubai. You'll get approximately the same drink, not because that bartender trained here, but because New York established the recipe as the recipe and made deviation feel like error. That's authority, not influence. Authority. You've been speaking New York every time you've ordered something and expected it to taste a certain way. You just didn't know the language had a hometown. New Orleans built habit, Houston built collision, Atlanta built scale. New York built the rules. Every other city made something worth drinking. New York decided how drinking was supposed to work, the measurements, the ratios, the names that became categories, the standards that spread to every professional bar on earth. The Manhattan didn't become universal because it's perfect. It became universal because New York decided it was the standard and the rest of the world agreed. That's not a cocktail culture. That's authority disguised as a drink menu. You've been following New York's rules every time you've ordered something and expected it to taste a certain way. The rules got there before you did. Drop a comment. Which one actually got you? And if you're not subscribed, we've got more of these coming.